What's up? I'm Tyler.
And I'm Dakota.
And this is the Bourbon and Business Podcast,
where we interview successful businessmen and women to let you in on why success doesn't have a single formula to follow.
We also have a little bourbon tasting along the way, because why not?
Why not?
So guys, please enjoy this episode and let us know your thoughts at Bourbon and Business Podcast on Instagram.
Coming to you from the Bourbon and Business Studio here at IPS in Flowood, Mississippi. I'm Tyler.
I'm Dakota.
And this is the Bourbon and Business Podcast. How you doing this morning, Dakota?
I'm great, Tyler. I'm in your office.
I know. Can you tell our listeners about this beautiful view we have here at Insurance Protection?
Yeah, I've got like 4 walls. It feels like a prison. I don't know how you work in here, but good for you.
That's a great advertisement. I appreciate that. But you want to introduce our guest to us this morning?
I do. Today we have special guest Ryan Hanley, president of Lincura and founder of Finding Peak. Ryan, welcome.
It's such a pleasure to be here, guys. I'm looking ready to roll.
Yeah. And what are we sipping on today?
Today we're sipping on another Chris Voss bourbon of the difference. This one's called the Multiplier. It's a shareable size, as you can see, a little tiny one.
So I know why they call it the Multiplier, because you get like multiple flavors.
Oh.
And it comes within a 3 or 4 second period. So,
Well, it is triple oak finished.
Well, I like it a lot. I think the other one I gave a 9.9.
You gave a 9.9 and a 10.
Okay, and a 10. So I might have to be right there with that on those 9.9.
Okay.
This one. I mean, they haven't missed on anything, and this is the 3rd bottle we've tried. So, if you're looking to get a bottle of this, you got to join the Shareholder Society. And then we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Cheers Vineyard in Glussack, Mississippi.
I actually had a chance. I was at Mick Hunt had his Lead Loud series event in Greenville, South Carolina last week, and I had a chance to go. And Chris was there, and so was Nick Nanton, who's one of his partners in that. And they had tasters, and that stuff is fucking good.
I know, it's phenomenal.
It's amazing.
And you're always nervous when somebody rolls something out. You're like, it's new. Am I going to like it? And you're on the podcast doing it in front of them. But I will say, like, it's phenomenal. Like, we're not just gassing it up. It's actually a very good bourbon.
Yeah. Very, very good. Yeah.
Well, Ryan, we appreciate you coming on this morning. We like to take the intro just to kind of you give our listeners your background, where you're from, and then how you got to the point of starting the Finding Peak podcast.
Yeah. Do you guys want me to share what I'm drinking this morning?
Yes.
Would love to.
So I got a nice bottle of Blanton's going here. Letter N, it looks like, working towards the collection. These are one of my favorites in terms of how much you pay for it. It's good, but
right.
I still like it. It's fun to have one on the shelf. And when you get like bougie friends over who like throw their nose up at stuff, you can always pull this out and everyone knows the name. So it's good. That's mostly when I drink this, is like when I have a friend who like throw their nose up at something that I really like, that isn't like a name, like a solid name, but no, it's delicious. And I'll give it a quick taste. Yeah. Solid 9.3, 9.2.
9.3.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Blanton's is always a party favorite. So,
Always a good choice.
Yeah, it's
always
just
a good choice.
Now it's hard to find it in the store, though. So you're lucky if you find a bottle of it.
So I got a guy, one of the liquor store owners in the area. He created a list for like exclusive stuff that's like hard to get. So you get on this text list. And what's funny about it, and other places do this, but it's first come, first serve. So like sometimes he'll put stuff out. So he basically just puts the name and how much the bottle is. And it's like whoever texts back first gets it. And like dudes have had like, I mean, not physical brawls, but like text brawls, text message brawls over like who gets it, and what are you just sitting on the text thing all day? It's pretty funny how crazy these guys get. And I'm like, guys, it's just a bottle of booze. I mean, trust me, I love booze, but there's more of it. So we're going to be all right here. Cool. All right. So sorry, what was your, tell me your question again.
So give us your background, where you're from, and then how you really got to the point of starting Finding Peak.
Yeah. So I'm from upstate New York, Albany area, born and raised. Was raised where I grew up was about 30 minutes outside the city, very small town of like under 900. Most people, I think, don't think towns that small exist in the north. They just associate that with the south. But yeah, we got hicks up here too, and I'm one of them. How I got started, I'll get to Finding Peak in a sec, but basically the 10-cent tour of my career is 20 years in the insurance industry for the most part. Worked for American Express and a large accounting firm in DC before that, but those jobs sucked, so I don't really count them. And mostly they just paid for my drinking habit anyways. But when I started to become a professional, I did 8 years as a boots on the ground producer, hawking home and autos and doing the kind of traditional pre-internet sales process. Put 50,000 miles on my car, trolling strip malls, the whole deal. So I got that full tilt sales education, what it means to walk into someone's business, feel that incredible awkwardness, ask them if they want you to quote their insurance and have them look at you like you're crazy and tell you to get the hell out. So I've lived that whole life. After 8 years there, I became the chief marketing officer of a company called TrustedChoice.com, one of the largest lead distributors in the insurance industry, and built a sister media company called Agency Nation. We put on a couple very large events, Elevate 2017, which was really fun. A couple other chief marketing officer jobs, was a mercenary CEO a couple times, and then ultimately founded my own digital national commercial insurance agency, which I scaled and sold to SIA in 2022. Which is a large network in our industry, and then exited from that at the end of 2023. Angel investor, board member for a bunch of companies, one of which was Lincora, and ultimately liked what they were doing and saw a need for my particular skill set in their business, and went fully operational in October of last year, which is where I sit today as the president of that company. The podcast, so I actually started my first podcast in 2011. It was called Content Warfare, and it was all about content and digital marketing. And really, it was kind of telling the story of what I was doing at the independent insurance agency that I started my career at. So this is during that 2008, 2009, 2010, when social media platforms were going from just, post something and that's all it was to, you could reply, there was direct messaging, there was, advertising was starting to be rolled out on some of these platforms. So they're really becoming marketing channels. And at time, even though content marketing isn't necessarily new in the digital world, that's really where true content marketing started getting applied to the internet. So before that, most of how you would create demand generation was through advertisements and email collection. And this is when starting to do videos and write blog posts and having a true content strategy could actually drive people in your business. And I was, all that stuff I said about selling, even though I did it, I was absolutely terrible at it. So I had to find a better way. And I looked to the internet, found content marketing, and really started to build my book of business and ultimately my career. And I documented it through this podcast. Very cool. Interviewed, at that time, podcasts are not what they are today. There were less than 1 million podcasts in the entire world at that time. And I got, just because I simply was doing it, and getting a podcast on the internet back then was hard. It took 3 or 4 different tools. You had to put it through this thing and then put it in this tool. And it was crazy to get a podcast out. It was not like today with Riverside. I basically use Riverside for everything, which is what we're recording this on now. I mean, I do all my editing. I do basically everything in this one app. It was not the case back then. So I got to interview these really powerful marketers, many of which we know their names still today. And I have a screenshot from 2014 where I'm the number 11th ranked podcast in the entire world. Ed Milet is 2 ahead of me. Gary Vaynerchuk is 2 behind me, right?
Wow.
So this, I'm doing, and at that time, I think it was, we'll call it somewhere around 52,000 downloads a month, put me in that position. Just to give you context, that you can't even scrape the top 10. Well, I guess you could scrape the top 10 maybe in the business channel just in the United States with that number of downloads today. But
yeah,
that's nothing on a world stage. So all this context to say, at that time, I also had kind of run my course at the independent insurance agency. 8 years there working for your ex-wife's family is a lot. And I became the chief marketing officer of a company called TrustedChoice.com, as I mentioned. And when I got offered that job, it was more money than I had ever made in my life. I came from a very poor upbringing. So the number that they threw at me, I had to catch my breath, even though, it's nothing to shake a stick at, I guess, but it wasn't, at the time, it was a shit ton of money. And so I'm like, okay, great. And they said I could keep the podcast. Well, 3 months into that job, I get the call into the CEO's office. Hey, we think that the podcast is a distraction and I'm like, I'm getting insights into some of the most relevant and intricate and nuanced marketing tactics that exist by literally having this free mechanism to get an hour of consulting with these amazing marketers, just sharing all their stuff with me, you know? And they're like, yeah, we don't care. So, you know, and also back in 2014, like no one knew podcasts were going to be what they are today. So long story short, I shut it down. I wish I hadn't, but I did. And in 2020, I restarted Finding Peak because the podcast, and you guys probably feel this, the podcast is like therapy for me, right? You get to come on, you get to meet interesting people that you would never normally meet in your everyday life. They spend time with you. They answer your questions. You get to have conversations. Like I just had Chris Daynert, the founder and CEO of Dugout Mugs. I don't know if you've seen these. He turns the baseball bats into the mugs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this guy's story is in 4 years. So he bought this company for, they were doing $1,000 a year in sales. He bought it. So he saw the idea. There was a guy like making it out of his backyard. He loved the idea. He loved the brand. So he buys it from this guy. They're doing $30,000 in revenue. In 4 years, he's done $55 million in top line revenue.
Jeez.
And here's the beauty of it. And this was kind of where we took the podcast, which is why I love this medium. And I didn't know we would go here, is it's also a lifestyle business for him. So like he was explaining how he built this business, set it up, right? Like right now, I think they're at like 10 million in ARR. And he took 3 months off this summer to just be with his kids and his family. And he's like, we went to the beach, we went to ball games, we went to football games, I went to all their sporting events, we went, you know, all these things. And he's like, I had a family summer. Like I woke up every day, I didn't check my email, I knew my people were on it. So it was like him. Now he's describing how he built this business from 30,000 in revenue to 10 million in ARR, right? In 4 years, while being able to live his life, which is not a normal narrative that you get. So I look at those things and I just am like, I want to learn these stories because like there's, you know, I like to believe I'm fairly successful in many of the things I do, but there's also just as many things that I'm constantly screwing up. And now you get to find people who've solved little pieces of it and start to put that into your own life, and hopefully the audience comes along for the ride. So that's why I love it.
And that's a pretty cool thing, you know, we hear, you know, because people talk about success all the time. And, you know, people want to put a dollar figure on that. And yes, you know, there is a dollar figure associated with that. We all have to make money to live our life. But to be able to create a business and create it in a way, put, you know, functions in place that you can step away for 3 months. And, you know, most of the time we hear that those founders are kind of handcuffed to the desk. You know, if they leave the company for a month, revenues are going to drop. So talk to us more about, because you have interviewed so many successful people. How are they, you know, for lack of better words, finding peak? What things are they doing in their life to become successful?
So the biggest one for me is their relationship with ego. And I actually did a TED Talk back in February called Stop Living a Life You Didn't Choose on this particular topic. Because, so my brain is broken, just so we're all on the same page. I have somewhere between severe hyperactivity and hyperactive bipolar. Basically, my brain is running at about 10,000 RPMs at all times. So I've had to build a lot of systems, processes, at sometimes like literally breaking systems to keep myself from going crazy, right? Or keep me focused on the things I need to do. It's a superpower in some regards, and it's a, you know, like all things, it's got an other side to it. So one of the things that I'm constantly doing is evaluating and trying to be as self-aware as I possibly can, even if it hurts, right? Even if I know I'm making a bad decision and consistently, or it's a bad habit, I try to call it out and be aware of it and work towards solving these things, because otherwise I would just go so fast with very little regard for what I was bumping into, what I was breaking, etc. Like that's my nature, is just to go, 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 go. And what I found, and I think this makes sense logically, is that while there are moments for that in which I thank God for the way that he's built me, there are also moments where that can be incredibly destructive, especially when you're working with a team, or you're trying to deliver services, or you're trying to be a value provider, or you're trying to be a good father or partner, or whatever. So I've had to put these mechanisms in place. Okay, so that preamble to what I've consistently seen being a major detriment to founders, entrepreneurs, owners, leaders, and we see this a lot in the insurance industry, is ego. We allow our ego to dictate our decisions and our belief structures and how we run our business, right? My name is on the box. This is the Johnson agency or the Smith agency or the whatever agency, right? I'm the one that runs this. I'm the one that's responsible. The buck stops with me. I have to touch everything. I have to know everything that's going on. I need to know where everyone is. And it's like, no, you don't. That is 100% your ego. Yeah, the buck stops with you because you're the owner, sure. But that doesn't mean you have to touch everything. And if it means you have to touch everything, it means you haven't done your actual job, which is being of service to your people. So when I interview someone who's been really successful, especially people who've been successful in a short period of time, they've found harmony with their ego. And what I mean by harmony is, I don't believe balance is a real thing outside of the physical meaning of the term. I think we have seasons in our life, and our goal as high performers and high achievers is to find the harmony necessary to be successful in that season, right? So there are seasons where you need to be that strong-headed, ego-driven person, right? I'm going to do this. No one believes in me. I'm going to make it happen. We're going to bootstrap this. I'm going to go get the money. We're going to make the sale. And you need that. You need that unreasonable, egocentric nature to plow through all the roadblocks that keeps everyone else from being successful. You need that season. Where the successful become elite is the ability to understand when that season is over, and they need to downshift on their ego and start to play the true role of an owner or a leader, which is being of service, which means once I reach CEO or president or founder, and we have some level of operational escape velocity, meaning we're not like literally about to go out of business every day, my role downshifts into, now I should no longer be the point of the spear for everything. Because I have HR and I have sales and I have marketing and I have service and I have insert any other departments. And those people should be better than me at those things. And how this manifests in a lot of insurance agencies in particular is the agency owner is also the number one producer. If you're the number one producer and you own the agency and your agency is more than, say, $500,000 in revenue, you're costing your business money. You should not be the number one producer. You shouldn't be. Because what that means is everything does have to go through you. You're not able to spend time on financial statements. If you're doing it in your off hours, which is causing you family time, which is going to cause stress and anxiety in that side of your life, which is then going to come back and manifest in your real business. So, and it all comes back to ego, in my opinion. So finding a harmonic relationship with your ego for the season that you're in, to me, is a clear defining factor of elite performers.
I think that's a fantastic take. And I was watching a clip on a Simon Sinek podcast yesterday, and it was the Gymshark CEO. I don't know if you saw this clip or not.
Have not.
But we all know Gymshark and how it's just like a great performance workout brand, right? And this guy was sharing how he was like, I realized I could not be CEO. He's like, I wasn't ready, because he's a young guy. I think he's like around his 30s or mid 20s or something. He's really young. But,
he was 22 when he started the company. I know that.
Yeah, and it's just blown up. I mean, since he started it, and it's fantastic because he took what mindset you're talking about at such a young age, and he was like, I'm not ready to be CEO. So they brought in a CEO, hired a guy who had like actually scaled companies before, and that guy scaled it for like, I don't know, 5-10 years or something, and now that guy who was a kid back then is now ready, and he's like, hey, I'm ready to be CEO now. Mm-hmm. But he learned from a mentor that he hired to run his own business so that he could be in the service aspect of things, like at the foundational level after it blew up, which was, I thought, extremely wise for such a young guy.
And think about how much better of a CEO he will be now because he spent time in the trenches, because he didn't constantly have the pressure of, I have to make every decision. Everyone expects me to know what to do, right?
Right.
And what's funny is, it's never been my primary business, but I've always had like 2 or 3 coaching clients on the side that I've worked with. I love mm-hmm. helping people, and I love leadership in general, just as a topic. It's way more nuanced than a lot of people give it credit for. And so I enjoy that work. But where I was going with that is, like, he said, well, everyone looks to me for the answers. And I'm like, that's a problem. That's your ego. You set that culture that you somehow have to make the calls, right? Whether that's you feel like you need to make the calls or you don't trust your team enough. Either way, that's a you issue, not a team issue, right? That's a you issue. So all these excuses I've found, and I could give you tons of other examples, these little phrases that you'll hear owners, leaders, founders say that they have to for some reason, and then insert, is always about their ego. That's always what it is. They're either scared they're not going to be successful and that's how the ego manifests, or it's they think they know better and that's how it manifests. But either way, they haven't figured out that ego side of their business, because once you do and you can give that up, oh my God. I mean, you watch your business go in directions you've never seen, because you can actually think about the things that grow your business instead of just the day-to-day tactics.
And we hear this a lot from our listeners, questions about this exact topic that we're talking about. It's probably one of the biggest issues that we hear. What advice would you give leaders out there or owners of companies to say, they say, hey, what you're saying is exactly what I'm doing, but I want to make a shift. I want to shift towards the way to actually lead the company. What practical advice would you give them to start making that change?
The first question, and I'm going to generalize because there's like a couple questions to get to this, but the first thing that I usually go after is, what do they actually want? Like, what do you actually want out of this? Is this a lifestyle business? Is this do you want them to write songs about you? Right? You want to be on the cover of Forbes? Like, and I mean that seriously. Like, what are you trying to, do you want to be a legend in your industry? Are you trying to, create, 20 millionaires out of your team or whatever? Like, what is it that you actually want out of this thing? Because I'll tell you, man, I think a lot of people who run businesses, whether they started it or they came into a leadership position, I don't think they have a clear understanding of what they actually want the outcome to be. I think they start a business, they have success, awesome. You make it through those first 3 years, you're now the exception. You have an operating business. This is a thing now. And I think it just becomes your identity. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, oh my God, I'm 45 years old. I'm still working 12 hours a day. I still have, 400 emails stuffed in my email inbox every day. And I'm still trying to sell. And, people are still texting me about, service related issues. And, oh my God, I'm losing my mind. And my wife hates me and my kids forgot my name. Right. And that's a big problem. And I'm exaggerating for hyperbole, but the point is, if you understand what you want out of the business, then you can start to build the culture and the systems, right? So it starts to give you the priorities. Like, if you understand what you want, then the priorities become easier to determine. So let's take a step back and just analyze this for a second. So if you're driven by ego, it's all about growth and the size of your business. Again, going back to the industry, that's our native industry, the insurance industry, right? Like, you'll walk into a conference and it's like, well, how big is your book? And then someone will tell you the number and be like, premium or revenue? How many employees do you got? What markets do you have? And it's all this like growth and big. And again, if that's what you want, right? Which I have no problem. Like, what your priorities are, that's not a judgment on your priorities. If you're like, Ryan, I want to grow the biggest, baddest freaking agency in the state of Alabama. I want everyone to get nervous when I walk in a room because me just looking at them, I could steal their clients, right? Like, I don't know, right? If that's what your goal is. Awesome. That's going to take one set of priorities to get to that goal, right? Or you say, hey, I need to make about $300K a year in take home. That my wife can stop working. I can get my kids to private school and I can get them to college or whatever your goals are, right? And I want to have a little nest egg because me and the missus want to have a house up in the Adirondacks that we can go to during the hot summer months so we can get away and enjoy the North, whatever, right? Whatever your goals are. Okay, that's a completely different set of priorities than the first scenario. But I think what happens is we see another business similar to ours that we envy, and we don't necessarily understand why we envy it because we don't know what our priorities are. So then we just go, I want that. And it's like, that guy's life could be miserable. He could be on his third divorce. He could be living paycheck to paycheck. He could have $100,000 in credit card debt. You have no idea. You just see the number on the outside of the box. So we have to forget about that, come back and understand what we want. That's number one. Once we understand what we want, there's two big changes that we have to look at. And the order of these really depends on the personality disposition of the individual and the current culture of the business. So if the culture is very strong, then we want to start to work on systems and processes that remove that owner from day-to-day operations. okay, outside of their zone of genius. So if your zone of genius is marketing, then maybe you do want to stay in some of the day-to-day. If your zone of genius is financial understanding, then maybe you want to be part of that process, right? So outside of your zone of genius, removing everything else through systems and process. If your culture shit, well, that's the first thing we have to work on, because none of those systems and process will work if your culture is not behind you. And a lot of that has to do that work is actually much harder and takes a lot of time. We have to really start to change the way we talk about our business, how we talk to our employees, we talk about what we do, et cetera. And that can get very deep. But that's kind of my 1 and 2 A and B steps that I would take. And then from there, it's situationally dependent.
How long would you say a culture shift takes? And I realize it's probably going to depend on the size of the business. I mean, if it's a 2-person team, it probably wouldn't take very long. But if it's a 15-person, a 20-person, a 50-person agency, I mean, that's going to take possibly years to get a culture straightened out.
Yes. So we'll talk about pace, not time, because time is relative. So let's talk about pace. If the leadership team is fully committed to the change, the pace can be very rapid, surprisingly so. If the leadership team is giving lip service to it, it can take forever and or never happen, and the pace will be very slow. So a lot of it is determined on the commitment. And what I mean by that is, like, if you set, so one of the first things when we're working on culture that we want to think about, beyond maybe doing some initial surveys and understanding who the people are and getting a feel for, once we understand what the culture actually is, you're going to have to set boundaries. Because a lot of cultures are shitty because they just have zero boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Like Sally thinks that she can be 15 minutes late from lunch because she's been 15 minutes late from lunch for 3 years. You've never said a word to her. The whole time you're thinking, what the hell's wrong with Sally? Why is she always showing up 15 minutes late? And in her mind, she's going, I love it here. They don't mind if I come back 15 minutes late. And you know what I mean? So the business owner's going, they're lazy. They take long lunches. And in the service person, Sally, she's going, I freaking love this place.
Yeah.
If I gotta stop and make a stop, it's okay. If I come back from lunch a few minutes late, it's no big deal, right? So these are the kind of, that's just one example, but you're gonna have to set boundaries. I need you to be in your desk at this time, or you have to you have to be at 0 tasks, or you have to make X number of calls, or whatever those requirements are. You're gonna have to set boundaries. And this is the part that honestly I think most owners don't want to do because they're chicken shits, is they don't want to have the hard conversation with people when they miss the boundaries. And that's why culture sucks. Johnny says something super shitty and offensive to Tammy. Tammy brings it to you and you go, that's just Johnny. He's kind of a good old boy.
I hate that excuse.
It's like, bro, don't wonder why your culture's shitty. Tammy was actually good enough to bring you a concern.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to have a hard conversation with Johnny and say, don't come in telling freaking sex jokes in the middle of the office in front of a mixed company where it's completely inappropriate. You don't want to have that conversation with him.
Even if Johnny's your top producer, you have to set that boundary.
100%.
Well, and I think we talk about Nick Saban on here a lot just because of his, commitment to excellence. And
Tyler's a huge Alabama fan.
No, I'm not. But I love Nick Saban and what he's done. But, if you look at him from the outside, most people are like, this guy's a jerk. But if you talk to anybody that has coached for him, has been on his teams, they love him. The culture is phenomenal there. And I think it's because of his commitment to, this is what we do at Alabama. This is what it takes to be successful. And I don't care if you're, Jalen Hurts. I don't care if you're, the 5-star prospect. You are going to adhere to what we do here. Mm-hmm. But there is, he doesn't treat anybody any differently. Whether you're the manager on the team or the star player, you're all held to the standard that is Alabama. And I think like what you're talking about here in an agency, a lot of time, or in a business, owners see that as I'm being a jerk holding these people to this standard. But really it does free everybody because there's no question, hey, this is what we're here to do. And when we do that, we're not treating anybody differently within the organization.
Dude. I saw a clip of that, and Nick Saban was going. It was a former running back for Nick Saban, and he was talking about the rules that Coach put in place. You do not be late to practice or a team meeting. And this running back was like 10, 15 minutes late. And he texted one of the players and was like, hey, I'm running late. What's the vibe in the meeting? Should I just skip it? And he was like, nah, you should be good. Just sit in the back. So he comes in, sits in the back. Nobody says a word to him. Nick Saban doesn't say a word to him. None of the other coaches say a word to him, and they go out, and this was like, a day or two before game day, so they're doing warm-ups and stuff, and he warms up, everything's fine, and Coach Saban comes to him like before the game, and he's like, you're gonna have to sit out for the game. And he was like, oh man, I'm sorry, Coach, it was because I was late. And he was like, no, that's not why. He said, it was because you didn't tell me. And like that's the rule. You didn't take responsibility for your own actions, and that's why you're going to sit this game out, even though you're our star running back. Like you've got to take. And he was teaching him a lesson in life, not just a football game. But he was like, you've got to own up to your own mistakes and your successes. Take responsibility for what you've done. He was like, if you had come to me, then I might have sat you out the first quarter or just a few minutes, and then you could have played the rest of the game. But now you can't play any of it because you didn't fully confess it to me.
Who doesn't want to know what's expected of them?
Yeah.
I mean, and it starts, I think it starts with hiring. I know most companies, look, if you're trying to change a culture because you're unhappy with it, you can't just hire your way out. That's not going to work. However, hiring is an enormous part of determining culture. And I see this a lot in insurance, but through all the different industries that I've been in. Fitness is the same. Technology is the same. Those are the other two industries that I've worked in with extensive experience. And people just hire someone because they have the right resume, or they sound good, or they look a certain way, or whatever. But they don't sit there and go, like I used to say when I was, my agency, Rogue Risk, I would tell people point blank, this is not an easy place to work. It's not. We're fully remote, which means that, and I don't do any keystroke tracking, and I don't do any time tracking. The reason I say it's hard is because you are going to be held to the standard of your position, which means, whatever your position I'm hiring you for, right? If it's sales, X number of sales, if it's service or whatever, whatever your particular position is, you're going to be held to a number. And if you don't hit that number, you go on a PIP. It's unemotional. So you can't get mad at me. If you're coming in for a sales job and our benchmark is $50,000 in premium a month is our low number, and you come in at $49,997 going on a PIP, performance improvement plan. And then you have a month to correct. And if you don't correct after that month, then we have a very serious conversation. And you get one more month. And if you don't correct after that third month, I have to fire you. And that's just the way it is. That there's
boundaries. Yeah.
And the difference is, and what I give you back, right? So expectations, what I give you back is, I don't care when you show up. I don't care if you take a 2-hour lunch. I don't care. Your metric that I need you to hit within the quality standards that we have is X. If you can do that in an hour a week, God bless you. You win. I don't care. Right? So it's like, but what we don't want to do is we don't want to set metrics, because then if someone doesn't hit them, we have to have a hard conversation. And we don't want to set expectations, because expectations cause us to have to create hard conversations. So the best way that I've found to do this is just create a clear standard, right? With nuance, right? We can't, we don't want to be so black and white, right? We want to have some nuance in there, but like, we create a clear standard that is easily definable, easily trackable. And if they agree to it when they come in the door, then when you actually have to implement that, it's completely unemotional. It's not, I don't like you, Dakota, because you didn't hit your number.
Yeah.
Dude, you didn't hit your number. Got a PIP next month. Just crush your number. PIP's gone. No big deal. That's it. It's unemotional.
So good.
Well, Ryan, we like to kind of take this part of the podcast. Tell us, like, what's next for you? I know you've got the podcast going full speed. You're the president of your company there. What's next for you on the horizon?
Yeah, so I won't say I'm trying not to take on anything new, because I probably do enough. But Lincora has been a wonderful challenge. It's been very challenging. I've never run a company of this nature before, like a pure tech play company. So that's been very challenging and interesting. And we're in a middle of a raise and lots of stuff going on there. So that's been very challenging and good. I mean that in a good way. And then from there, it's really just trying to become more dialed in, more, adding more value, more consistent to the audience, the podcast and the newsletter. So I have a newsletter. If you go to financegeek.com, I have a newsletter by the same name as the podcast. Podcast tends to feed the ideas that ultimately come out in the newsletter. But I'm trying to continue to cultivate a community of people that like the tagline is unreasonable people seeking unreasonable results. Because I have this firm belief that it's the old George Bernard Shaw quote, right? Like the reasonable man acquiesces to the world. The unreasonable man makes the world acquiesce to them. Therefore, all progress happens from, I'm slightly misquoting here, by the unreasonable man. And that quote, like the first time I read that, it made complete sense to me, because having interviewed as many people as I have, like going all the way back to 2011, unreasonable, like most people immediately assume unreasonable with like disagreeable, angry. Like that's not what the word means. It can mean that person can be considered unreasonable. It's unreasonable to think that in 2025, you're going to start a scratch independent insurance agency digital only. That's an unreasonable thing to think. Possible. It's completely fucking unreasonable, right? Like way better ways to make money, especially for the first 3 to 5 years. There's way easier ways to make money. But if that's your dream, you have an idea, or you want the lifestyle that comes out of with that industry and that job, that's an unreasonable thing. And you have to go get it. And you have to be unreasonable in doing it. Your friends are going to look at you like, bro, how come you're not coming to golf on Tuesdays? And you're like, because I can't be in a golf league, bro. I'm growing a business. That's an unreasonable thing. It's very reasonable to just go along with what everyone does. And you have to be very unreasonable to get success. Success is like, success, I think, for so long has been misunderstood. And I think, you have to couple into success. You have to couple fulfillment, right? We talked about it in the beginning. There's monetary success, sure. And I do think oftentimes a lot of the like influencer types gloss over. There's a lot of like bullshit around like, oh, it's not about how much money you have. It's about how much time you have. Well, if you don't have any fucking money, then you're miserable and anxious and you don't, you know what I mean? All the time anyways. So like you have to make money. You have to. But you just have to figure out what your number is. Your number set. Okay. Is it $150? Is it $500,000? Is it $1 million? What's your number? Figure it out. Go get that number. Once you have that number and you can exhale and feel confident and secure in yourself financially, because then you can, it frees you up to start to work on physicality, mental. And it's not like you can't work on these things synchronously, but like, I take a lot of offense to the, deca-millionaire who's sitting up there going, if I had to do it all over again, I don't know if I would because of how hard it was. Shut the fuck up. I can't even listen to that shit, right? Or like the 42-year-old with no kids telling me about their morning routine. I don't care. You know what I mean? I got an 11 and 9-year-old that I have to get to school in the morning who, half the time are puking during the winter, and I got to deal with that. And they get out of school at 3 and you got to figure that out. And then they got sports and okay. But what really matters is my 4:30 in the morning, cold plunge routine. It's just, I get a little frustrated with some of this because they try to downplay, in my opinion, how important the financial aspect is. Like if you're listening to this show and you have financial pressure, go solve that problem. Because once you solve the financial problem in a healthy way, right? Not just I need more. Pick a number. What number allows you to exhale and go, I'm good. Putting a little money away. My bills are paid. I can take my girl out or my guy out once in a while and take care of him, buy him something nice. You know what I mean? Whatever. Like, what gets you that number? Go get that number first, especially if you're a kid. If you're a kid, go get that number, right? Once you have that and you can exhale, you can still grow your wealth and your income, but now you can start to work on things like your physicality, your mental, your spirituality, your relational stuff. And that's where life really starts to get good. I mean, that's really where the wealth comes from. But I really get frustrated by the people that give this advice that like, if you're making $25,000 a year as a barista, that somehow the freedom that comes with being fucking broke is somehow like empowering. It's not. Like, those people are filled with anxiety and stress. So it's like, figure that part out and then go get the rest.
Some great advice there. So, Dakota, give us your thoughts on the bourbon.
I thought this was a really good bourbon. Yeah, all three of them have been just fantastic. The Multiplier shareable, it's a 105.6 proof, which it always cracks me up when they do that. And, I'm like, couldn't you just like pick like 105 or like 106? But no, 105.6. Triple oak finish. I thought it was nice, sweet touch of vanilla in there, right on the tongue, but it finishes with like a heavy oak. So a little bit different than the other one that we tried that like finished with a cherry flavor. And it's kind of hot out of 105.6, but I'm going to land it at 9.8.
9.8.
Yeah.
So
Still fantastic. I mean, a lot of stuff I'm looking for there in a bourbon.
we'll land at a 9.8.5.
Perfect. Your math is impeccable.
I know, it's perfect. And you heard it here on the podcast. We rated Chris Voss's The Multiplier higher than Blanton's got rated. Now, it was two different people rating it, so I don't know if that counts.
So I haven't had the Multiplier. I had a different one than that when I had the taste. But I'll tell you, I would take the one that I had through Voss's thing. I would take that over Blanton's if you made me choose.
I think so. I think you're right on that.
Man, it's good.
And just tell our listeners real quick, if they're listening and they're like, hey, I love this dude, what he's talking about, what is the best way they can find you on social media?
Yeah, so you can go to findingpeak.com. The newsletter's there. You can get all the podcast information, subscribe. If you just Google Finding Peak, you'll get the podcast. And then probably the easiest way to get a hold of me these days is like on socials is Instagram. So it's Ryan_Hanley, and just DM me. I have a lot of people that some of my coaching clients and some other people that I do a lot of work through that platform. As crazy as it sounds, like Instagram has become a very easy mechanism to like communicate stuff, especially at that level. So that's a great place to connect. And I love to help, guys. So if anyone's listening and has a question or if you think I'm full of shit, I love those. I love that feedback even more. So that's my favorite, actually.
I love it. I love it.
It's been a pleasure, Ryan.
Yes, thanks for coming on.
To all our listeners, however you stream this, if you'd give us a rating and follow us on socials, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, fellas.
Hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
If you have any feedback or would like to be featured, reach out to us at bourbonandbusinesspodcast@gmail.com.
Or find us on Instagram at Bourbon and Business Podcast.
Thanks again for listening.
Follow us for more content and info on the next episode.